Oh my god. Are we going back to Craig?
Temporarily until I get the many things as if there was a restart required that didn't happen last night. So I'll schedule a restart for just after we're done playing and see if that will make a difference with Mini Tool. But having a backup hopefully will help, and we can get this play noted down and saved for our posterity to be viewed at later dates. So, as always, I want to thank you guys for spending this time and sharing this time and giving this time to this hobby of ours. But I also want to drive home how important it is that you do so. I wholeheartedly respect your time given. We have been at this chronicle and the story of these characters in various permutations for a very long time. We are far in excess of most other live plays. LA by Night, New York by Night, most of Mathis's games and his play sessions, and several others, some of which deal in and around various versions of Chicago and as many cities as there are in the US. But we have managed to tell, at least for me, an engaging story to explore a seemingly never-ending sea of action and thoughtful moments of these characters and their version of the city. So, yeah, thank you all very, very much. It is a highlight of my week getting to play, and it can't be said more often or often enough that what we do here is the cornerstone and basis for all other aspects of my play. Thank you, and thank you. So, now that my warm and fuzzies are out of the way, do we have any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off before diving in?
I think I'm ready to go.
All right. Silence is ever, in our particular case, a very good thing. It means that we are all caught up. We are all aware of where we left Hestia, Lucio, Miriam, and Sophia. There's a lot of things that these monsters that become near and dear to our hearts have done over the last few weeks, days, months, and years. A lot of things that have been, at the very minimum, questionable, and oftentimes downright demonic. They have dipped their pen into the well of never-ending darkness, and they have somehow managed to come out the other side more times than not. They have made the impossible their calling card. They have made doing and surviving and existing in places where even fools fear to tread the hallmark of their constant, ever-changing new normal. But in this moment, where we last left them, in preparation of what might befall them with the daring free climbers outside, with the still cooling body of Silvio in the upper chamber, they have invited neighbors, Sophia's neighbors, into her penthouse. They have brought relatively innocent individuals into what could be a defining chaotic moment that puts a capstone on their lot. And whether actively participating in what might befall them or simply acting as bystander, there is a common logic to, well, they voted with their feet. They've allowed things to go. They have allowed these moments to spin out around them. One of those situations where it harkens back to that often tried out chestnut: evil could not profit or prosper save for the silence of a few good men. And that's where we are. The night outside, brightly lit as all nights downtown in Chicago are. The coterie undecidedly in this moment. The neighbors excitedly in this moment. They believe wholeheartedly that this is a moment of networking, that they will be adding to their retinue of potential friends. They believe that this is the first step of many into a burgeoning relationship of true camaraderie, neighborly engagement. And without further delay, without any further ado, this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 16, Episode 5, Glass Rats in Dry Cellars. And we begin with Sophia, following along behind the husband as he heads to help Silvio extricate himself from whatever he is reportedly under.
It's very tragic.
From what I remember, he was a very stout individual. Are you sure that I'll be able to quite get it off for him?
He says something about the leverage. Where he is pinned, he has no leverage to push the item off of himself.
Okay. So I'll be able to lever it, I believe. Which room is it? And why are there such an interesting pattern on the floor here?
I do not know. It came with the apartment.
Now, as you all are heading up the stairs, are you leading him to the room in which Silvio is lying in state, or you're attempting to lead him somewhere else?
I'm going to lead him right where Silvio is.
Another question remains. Did Lucia, when you helped remove Silvio, did you close the door or is it left open?
Left ajar.
So there's this very tense moment as the husband reaches the door. It's cracked open, the lights aren't on, because you all don't need it, and two, neither does Silvio's corpse. So he uses the toe of his shoe to push the door further open, standing there with the hall light behind him, looking into the room. And there is a very human realization and understanding that what he is looking at is not a living thing. What he is looking at is a cold, cool corpse. What he is inhaling and smelling is the scent of death. And as all of these wheels are turning, and 1 + 1 is adding together to make 11 in his mind, anything that Sophia is doing.
She will reach out and sensually caress his the side of his neck and try to lock eyes with him.
That is a little more difficult with the mounting fear that is crawling up his spine like a spider made of ice. That is a little more difficult, that being the case. The first thing that I will need you to roll, because you are attempting to use Dominate, correct?
Correct.
All right. That being the case. Mesmerize or something a little bit heavier?
Probably Mesmerize.
Okay. So, first things first, natural resistance, we're going to go with your manipulation and dominate versus his intelligence and resolve. And his intelligence resolve is... Oh. All right. Way to go, hubby. He is exceptional.
Is he?
Fortunately, Sophia is not very manipulative. Haha.
Yes, no, not very much at all. And in that moment, you catch his gaze. The fear hasn't quite forced him into action. It hasn't pushed him off the cliff. It is literally just ratcheting him up the crest of the hill before taking the brakes off and sending him plummet into whatever fear frenzied action might fall him. His eyes are wide, they're falling to pinpricks, his skin is losing color by the second, and you catch those big, bright, beautiful eyes in yours. What is it that Sophia is telling you?
She will tell him that he needs to kneel down and that he also needs to be as quiet as the grave, because the irony.
There is a natural resistance that certain people have, a natural fight, not flight, that certain people have. And Sophia, having had experience with all versions of her understanding of the discipline, has occasionally run across and run afoul of those individuals who persist in their resistance. Luckily for her, and unluckily for him, he is not one of those people. He is a person that would fly at the first mention of actual harm. He is the first to exercise the greatest part of valor, and that's discretion. He is the sort that would not retreat from battle. He would never be there to begin with. And as she instructs him to kneel down, he does so as only someone who will always seek the easiest, quickest means of escape from any conflict. She merely told him to kneel down and to remain quiet, and he is silently bobbing his head as if he needs to do so to breathe, his head jiggling up and down in response of yes, 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 yes. And as he falls to one knee, somehow knowing that he needs to maintain eye contact, his gaze is filled with her and only her, because she, unlike whatever is happening in that room, is very much alive. She is his one option to remain living. She is... Oh, please step on me. And while that's happening upstairs, the wife, she was making herself to home, worrying over the bottles, trying to pick the right decoction, did notice the stain near the door. That was one of those things where if it was a snake, it would have bit her. It was one of those things where if it wasn't for bad luck, she wouldn't have any luck at all. It was one of those things that she couldn't use since the good Lord gave her. But her eyes do work. She has no idea what that burnt dark reddish brown stain is, but she notices the trail of it leading towards the steps. She notices that it, unlike the other furniture, has a very large amount of color to it. She notices that it's a little flaky, and that whoever did the interior design clearly had a very strange sense of humor. And she makes notice of such out loud as you all are whispering in that way that only kindred can. There's a very real magic in being able to speak without needing breath. There's a very real magic in the fact that their senses of touch, sight, scent, and hearing work at a higher rate than it did when they were alive. As if all of the white static noise of the world no longer affects them. And you all know this. And where's everyone's hunger, by the way?
2?
3.
I think Hess might have been at 1. I gotta check because we had the an injury happen. So
You also had all that lovely booze.
Yes, she drank Alston deeply. So there's no immediate nettling from your beast. And having something so warm, so stupid, so at your disposal in immediate touching distance. Your beast doesn't nettle you over the fact that she's putting all of those signs that she is into the idea of touch. She's putting up all of those signals, the constant flashing of her open palm, the expressive, expansive talking with her hands, the constant looking from one eye to the next, to your lips, to back. She is doing all of those things that a common flirt who is open to the idea of at least being flirted back with does in conversation. She hasn't quite learned how not to monopolize the conversation or to really take in who her audience is. But, we do what works for us. And being a fairly attractive, upwardly mobile person who helps those less fortunate than herself, it is usually more than enough to be seductive. So all of the other little touches that she's constantly adding are very much gilding the lily, very much wooing with the tools that she has. She doesn't have to listen because she's attractive enough, she's interesting enough, and most people want to spend time in her company. And she has a handsome, strong, strapping husband who has an equally helpful job, who is upwardly mobile, and they live in a very nice apartment. They drive a very functional but classy vehicle. They are part of all the right parties and schools of thought. And she again makes notice and mention of the stain on the carpet and through the floor and up the stairs, and the interior decorator clearly was having a laugh, weren't they? Because that doesn't really go with much of anything else. Now, what were we saying as to everyone's drink? I think I will have this lovely bottle of Pinot Noir. After all, if it was in a movie, it can't be wrong. And while I would normally suggest a Merlot, we know how Merlots fucking suck.
Hess kind of smiles and looks at the other two, but then speaks up. They stopped by and thought it was somewhat of an early Halloween prank thing. That stained blood stuff, like that comes in the capsules, you bite into it. It's the weirdest shit. We're just probably gonna clean it up at some point later on. It just didn't seem all that important right now, I've already had my drinks for the night. I'm good. Feeling nice, so, whatever you want. We still gotta figure out what the plan is for this evening.
Oh my God, I do miss those days when I could stay up all night. Unfortunately, we do have work in the morning. However, a little bit of wine, even at this late hour, is never a bad thing, as long as we don't overdo it. Why not? You very much look like a Chablis girl, or maybe a little rosé. I do see that they do have a nice bottle here, although I probably wouldn't go this red with a rosé. Wine, definitely wine, right? Everyone's gonna have wine, or are we gonna be a little daring, try some of this? Ooh, Armagnac. I have not had this since junior year. I was at work at Circle Campus. It was, and it's clear that.
While she's talking, I lean very carefully over to Miriam. If you're still hungry, you might be able to let her drink. You know, she seems like she's down. We might want to get as much health as we can before we have to deal with whatever's coming.
Maybe.
And then leaning back the other direction towards Lucio. How long do we wait before we just say, fuck it, and grab Sophia and get the hell out of here?
Uh,
5 minutes.
no.
So, the 5 minutes catches her attention. While it was said very, very low, there's something about the whispering, more so than the subject actually reaching her, catches her attention. Her mouth hangs open for a split second. What are they doing? And she walks between you all, making sure that the faint whiff of her perfume lingers in the air behind her with a small little sachet. Glass held aloft, of course, hair slightly flouncing and catching the small breeze from the apartment's fans and ventilation system as she moves toward the window, looking out onto the rest of the city. Now, here's the thing. At a run, the average person takes about 1 minute to cover a block. End to end, running all out. Takes about a minute for the average person. The average upwardly mobile, slightly out of shape person. Take you about a minute. Now, while you may not be able to run for more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes, the fact that that's the average speed gives you an idea as to how long it would take a clearly physically fit being to cover the distance of about half a block. Even at this height, even at this altitude, even with the gentle breeze blowing in off of the lake, the average person can run a block in just about a minute. You all have been at this for just about 2.5. You were only a half to a quarter of a block away from what you all saw pre-climbing skyscraper. And speaking of climbing, on his knees looking at you as if you are the Virgin Mary and Shiva combined into one beautiful form that will spare his life if he but adheres to your whims, your wishes, and your needs and wants. His eyes are all about you. His gaze is all needful adherence to the next words tumbling free of you. What is it that you are doing, Sophia?
She will, while pushing the door shut with her foot, she will unbutton a couple buttons of her blouse and smile at him. And she will turn around and go pull something out of her drawer. And then she will saunter back, keeping the blade behind her back. And if he doesn't do anything else, she will drag it across his throat.
Well, first things first, let's see, does he even bother? Does he even notice? But you still gotta just go ahead and roll either your dexterity and larceny or your dexterity and subterfuge, whichever is higher. Whether you're able to keep him from noticing because you are so very charming and so very distracting, or whether you are just that skilled or just skilled enough with sleight of hand to keep him realizing that that is a weapon. That is a weapon. It is coming for him. It is not a very good idea to be on the wrong end of anyone else's weapon. He is completely unaware of that stereotypical shink as the dagger is drawn from its sheath. He is very unaware to the stereotypical tropiness of being distracted by the hint of cleavage. He is very, very stereotypical, like a lamb to the slaughter, having followed the Judas goat in to the killing floor and allowed the Judas goat to escape out the other side. There's no place back for this particular sheep. There's no place to escape for this little lamb. It is very much over before it has begun. There were so many more things he wanted to do. He was supposedly going to go on a visit to K2. He wasn't going to actually climb it, but he was going to go to a party at the foot of the mountain. He and the Mrs. were going to fly to Venice in the next couple of years. They already had the booking saved and merely needed another couple of $1,000s put away specifically for the trip. The exchange rate is murder on the US dollar. Everyone has their hands out. It's always best to go with too much and not enough. And there were so many more things he wanted to do at work and so many more people he wanted to help. And all of that flashes before his eyes as the hot feeling grows like a flower opening toward the sun at the center of his neck. While the slice is clean and all too easy, with him being so distracted, his head upturned, his eyes locked onto hers, fighting the urge to stare longingly at that brief, flickering glimpse of cleavage. The blood that pours out doesn't pour, it rockets. Even at rest, the human heart is capable of enough pressure to send blood flying 8, 10, 12 feet from such a huge wound. Sophia standing right before him. There is nothing but a baptismal in blood.
She kind of expected that. But as he is bleeding out, she will incant in whatever ancient dead language that she knows, which are a few of them, that as an offering, this fresh soul to those who inhabit the building and would see it not be harmed, for their continued aid and protection in a matter that is probably about to occur.
Now
and then she will go get a robe.
Now she's beseeching, or is she attempting to intimidate?
Probably a bit of both. You know, she got that Rossellini blood. She can't just be nice about it.
Okay, so go ahead, average her manipulation and charisma, and roll that with Oblivion. DC is 2 to get them interested. Anything more than DC 3, and you have not only their interests but their intentions to protect what is theirs, to keep this space as safe as they possibly can, and welcome the newest spirit, the newest soul being added to their coffin. Nope, I didn't see that. That needs to be real. As that is happening, here's the thing. As Sophia's getting a rope, as Sophia is preparing herself for the next portion of this journey that she is on, there is a sixth sense that one develops in being in the presence and around that moment when the air is charged with the evaporation of life, when that 21 grams dissipates from the human form, when the soul flies free of its mortal boundings, when it escapes into the ether and becomes part of the fullness of the world outside of our physical touch. That sixth sense is partially due to the Coterie members living and inhabiting in a place that they do. The shelter is a nexus point. It is a dragon's nest. It is a ley line nexus. It is a nuclear reactor of spiritual energy. The shroud is just a suggestion. The veil technically doesn't exist. They are awash constantly in those forces and energies. So for the record, does either Hestia, Lucio, or Miriam have a wits and awareness less than 3?
Well, Lucio's wits is 4.
Yeah, my total dice pool is at for 7.
Yeah, she's at 7.
So,
Also at 7.
So, Lucia, while you, the player, are not a parent, everyone else has dealt with kids, and even as you know, not being a parent, you've been around nieces, nephews, cousins, and so forth and so on, and friends and associates who have children. It is that moment, that heart-pounding moment, when the children are at their most childlike, noisy, and rambunctious, and then that sudden quiet fall. That sudden heart-pounding moment when everything goes quiet out of the clear blue. Not a quiet, gradual declination of sound. It is that sudden stop, as if the world is holding its breath, which means the kids realize it was at this point fucked up. And it's that moment that you all experience as her husband ceases to be, as she is looking towards the window. And you know it's not her, but you feel it. You feel someone not only walk over your grave, they stopped, they had a party, and they forgot to clean up behind themselves, is what you feel. While she looks out the window. What is it that they're doing? Oh my God, I didn't believe people were working this late. Look at them. They have window washers. Oh. And she's trying to make out what it is she sees, trying to rationalize the fact that she sees humanoid individuals, because they're not truly human. Even looking over her shoulders, they're too bulky. They're too hairy. Not hairy enough where their entire skin is covered in fur or dander or anything like that. No, it's tufts of hirsute portions of skin running up and down the forearms, down the center line of the back, across the brow, hair that shouldn't be that thick and luxurious, as these individuals make their way seemingly towards this window, but you realize that they are in fact going to the roof.
having felt what we felt and knowing what the hell it is, Hessa's like kind of shoots to her feet. I don't know. Maybe you're filming a movie or something, but you might want to come away from the window just in case, so you don't like ruin their shot or something. I don't know. And she is like looking at the other two like, we might want to go.
Miriam is just going to turn and smile at the woman and pat the chair next to her and smile pretty. It's like, come on and sit down, darling. Let's have a drink, in her, most seductive way.
Just going to go ahead and roll your charisma and persuasion. Your DC is 2. She is already very interested in the idea of having such a forbidden moment. They can share and share alike and all of that, but they have the opportunity of potentially getting to physically know someone as damaged as Lucio.
Do you want persuasion, or since I'm a sire and I have a subterfuge specialty in seduction?
Oh, you're attempting to actually seduce, not merely be so personable. In that case, let fly.
All right. That is... If I could type, that would be even better.
I think you still have speech to text.
Alright, that's 2.
It is. It shouldn't be this easy. Lives hang in the balance. And the truth of the matter is, it is hard for Kindred to look into the mirror or see images of themselves and not see Predator. And not see the monster peeking out of their eyes. It is a very difficult thing, which is why most Kindred self-delude themselves. There's a reason why most Kindred use such flowery language and I'm unalive, darling, or whatever else that they choose to prop themselves up with to disguise the fact that every time they see themselves or see another Kindred, they see the monster, they see the predator, they very much see that they are not actually living. It shouldn't be this easy, but it oftentimes is. A little bit of subtle magic, a little bit of social camouflage, and you have the width and breadth of humanity eating out of the palm of your hand, or more specifically, you eating out of the lap of them, eating their hearts and devouring their lives. And that's when you're kind. If you were heedless and careless, the rivers of blood that would run at a moment's notice would drown nearly the entirety of the world. And she flounces back to her seat. She looks between Miriam and the others. The idea very much sitting there, dancing behind her eyes, all of the imagery and fantasies, bombarding and mixing with all of that lovely, less than exceptional Pinot Noir. It's not as if she's just drinking it. She is soaking her insides in it. And speaking of soaking in it, the fountain of blood that erupted from Sophia's sacrifice. Luckily for her, her hair is already black and slicked down. It will be hard to tell whether it's just wet or that it is in fact soaking in blood. Her face, however, as creamy pale as her complexion is, makes it stand out. And while she all but soaks it up, drinks it in as if her skin is another appendage to do so, there is still the matter of blood soaking portions, namely the outside of her instead of the inside of her.
It's fine, I can use that. realizing that she is not going to be able to mask the blood. She will rush down the stairs, yelling to whatever the woman's name was, to come quick.
So, as
That.
as she begins to settle, and the fantasies are dancing, and the Pinot Noir is very much noiring through her, and Hestia and Lucio are trying to decide what it is they might do, considering what it is they know is happening and occurring just outside this building, just outside this room, just outside this space, this haven, this relatively protected area, this isolated with you all alone, not easily viewable by any other living or unliving entity, out on a limb as you are, with individuals climbing the building to the roof. As Sophia, looking like a blood-stained angel, is rapidly ushering, urging, cajoling the woman to come quick. What is it that everyone is doing? Let's go in alphabetical order.
How much does Hestia know about, one, the armory in the apartment and or safe room in the apartment?
Everything that she's heard and witnessed thus far. Is there a particular thing you're asking for? Because there is, in fact, an armory. It very much is a gun person's, knife person's dream cubbyhole. There, he, she, shed. It is a place dedicated to the potential for violence.
Well, basically what Hess is looking for out of the things that she remembers about the apartment is anywhere that there is a door thick enough or armored enough so that they can put it between them and what's coming, to make it harder for whatever the lupines to get in at them, and maybe give them a chance to arm themselves and maybe fight their way out if they have to. So that's the thing she's looking for in her head. So would the armory be more that, or would the safe room be the one with the door that's super thick and hard to get into?
Between the two, the safe room is by far the most defensible. Just in terms of being an object between you and others. The armory is by far the most offensive. There is literally enough armaments in that room to hold off a siege against most things.
Okay. How many actions do I have?
Time is always of the essence. Sophia is covered in blood already and urging the woman forward. So the clock is running.
Knowing that Sophia has some sort of plan for herself, but not knowing what the hell that plan is, Hess is going to go for the armory first, grab handfuls of stuff that she doesn't know anything about, really, and head for the fucking safe room. And tell the other two, like, you know, safe room.
So Sophia appears at the top of the stairs. Hesha is on her feet and moving toward the armory, where she watched Silvio arm himself to prepare for, well, trouble. And taking it in was definitely a moment of just sheer aggressive machismo, because there is enough weaponry there that you could probably stage several action movies with what lies inside. As that's happening, and Lucio sees this happening, sees Sophia at the top of the stairs, ushering the wife forward, covered in blood. What is it that he's doing?
Lucio is looking for all the silver he can find. And if there are silver bullets in the armory, all the better. So he will also look in the armory, see what's available. If there's no silver weaponry in the armory, he's going to go to the kitchen to try and find silverware. Hey, it worked in the movies, right? It should work against the real deal, right? Right?
Hey, that's Miriam's typical go-to.
Would you be so kind as to roll intelligence plus either occult or firearm? Whichever is higher.
Would a specialty in handguns apply or no?
Yes.
Okay, then firearms it is.
All right, what are the chances of someone of Sophia's caliber and upbringing having actual only sterling silver in their cupboards? So, with that thought in mind, Lucio heads into the armory, hard on the heels of Hestia. It is, as it were, a overly violent gun enthusiast's most fetishized fantasy. Walls upon walls of armaments. But what Lucio is looking for is considerably more specific. Not only because, not every bullet goes into every gun. Not every gun would not turn silver into slag. It is a soft metal. It is a very easily melted metal. It has a relatively low boiling point. And as such, it's typically mixed. Lucio doesn't care about his mixture just as long as it has enough silver to do the job. And begin scrabbling and finding different casings and shells and matching them to weaponry. It won't take him a few moments, but he is able to find enough to launch an affirmative defense or offense, as the case may be. While that is happening, Lucio and Hestia rushing towards the armory, and the wife, the neighbor. There is a moment when realization begins to dawn, and some small voice, some angel on your shoulder, which had been asleep at the wheel, begins yelling, "You shouldn't be here." And that is clearly what's happening internally for her. Watching this happen, Miriam, what is it that Miriam is actually doing? Sophia is covered in blood. She's urging the woman forward. You witnessed very wide, very muscular, very hairy individuals crawling towards the roof, which is the second story, which is technically on top of the second story, but needless to say, it's up, which is where Sophia is drawing the woman towards, while Lucio and Hestia are heading towards the armory, Silvio's armory. And you're sure that everything is in its rightful place. Everything is itemized and alphabetized, not only by type, but manufacturer, caliber, and grain, which should make things easier. But because of that adherence, that obsessive need to organize, makes things a lot harder to find, more times than not.
I suppose Miriam would follow along with Hestia and Lucio, because she's not going to be much use here.
with that happening, and Sophia watching all of this happening, watching dawning realization occur to her neighbor, what is it that Sophia is doing as the other three take off at a sprint, at a light jog, at a quick jaunt towards the armory? No reasons why given, simply safe room now from Hestia and Lucio following along instead of going to the safe room, heading toward the armory, and Miriam following along, not heading to the safe room, but heading to the armory. And the wife beginning to dread, beginning to panic, beginning to not know what situation they're in. It went from a late night meetup to something horribly and otherwise else.
Well, I need her to come with me. So, if she is not doing that, I will either dominate her to do that, or I will get her myself.
All right. Which are you going to try first? Heading down the stairs to grab her by her wrist or arm or whatever else you can grab and drag her up the stairs, or you're going to reach out and snatch her mind?
I am far from the physical type, but I am very much of the you will do what I say type, so I will use the dominate.
All right. Give that manip and dominate a good roll, and I will roll her intelligence and resolve. Intelligence and resolve. Second here. It is intelligence and resolve, yes. And she is more than her husband by 1. Not much. And she did roll that 1. There is some resistance. There is the effort to defend herself, to rise to the battlefront and stand victorious amongst those who were willing to bleed for their beliefs, and all of that falderall, all of that drivel. She folds and crumples like wet paper. The effort was there. It was definitely maximum effort moment from her. She frowned and all but sneered as her feet began moving. You can tell that she's mounting an affirmative defense, building her case mentally as she begins walking up the steps. Who do you think you are to order people around? You can't just do this and expect people to do what you're... And as she's saying so, she is walking up the stairs.
All will be answered in time, my good dear. And then, all things working out as they probably will not, she will lead her to the room where she can meet a similar fate to her husband. But for different purposes.
All right, so, as always, the clock is running. The clock is ticking in the background. And at this moment, with the other 3 members of the coterie settling into the armory, finding what they need to move to the second part, for Hestia, and to move to the second part for everyone else. While that's happening, and while Sophia is mounting the steps, you all effectively have 3 actions. So, we know that one of Sophia's actions will be the gruesome, vicious slaughtering of another neighbor. We know that one of Hestia's actions is to mount the steps and get to the clean room. What are Lucio and Miriam's actions? And what is Hesha's actions after getting to the clean room? And what are Sophia's actions after slaughtering another of her neighbors?
After Hess gets to the clean room, she is going to dump gently all of the things she grabbed, knowing that Lucio's probably behind, and going to be able to tell her what they need, like what kind of guns and stuff they are. So she's just kind of like, moving furniture to give them space to hunker down inside the safe room.
For Lucio's part, once he finds what he's looking for in the armory, he's gonna head to the safe room with Hestia. And if there are no silver bullets, he will still at least find the biggest gun he can find. Preferably a fully automatic.
Miriam will take whatever is handed to her and follow to the clean room.
Sophia, for her part, will do this neat little thing that she knows, where she raises her bodyguard and his new friend to protect her.
Now, which ritual or ability of oblivion are you attempting on using to do so? Because as always, there are multiple ways to get to that point.
I am using the Shambling Hordes ritual, which makes super, better, awesome, aggressive zombies that last theoretically forever.
Yeah.
You finally did it. You finally got the chance. I'm so proud of you.
I'm going to lose some more humanity this season.
So
You've already done that.
I said more, damn it.
So to properly describe this scene, Hestia, Lucio, and Miriam are inside the safe room. It is a vault. It is a Faraday cage built into the building itself. It is designed by dint of its appointed use to act as a shield and abate most supernatural and electric energies. This particular safe room, this particular Faraday cage has been reinforced, retrofitted, and upgraded over the years. It very much is the height of supernatural technology in abating those energies. It, for the most part, makes anything inside of it deaf, dumb, and blind to anything outside of it as far as supernatural awareness. And each of the three are moving furniture, hunkering down, loading shotgun shell after shotgun shell into the auto clip for the shotgun, making sure that the draw is clear and clean on the firearms spread across the tables in front of them as they hunker down behind it. Now here's the thing. While paranoia and groupthink and all of that takes place because there's a tension rising, no one has ever spoken about what it is that they may be facing, what it is that they are preparing to have their Alamo over. And as the seconds tick back and tick by, and time, being the thief of always, is stealing the now and turning it into the later, taking you each second into the future of what has already happened. You just haven't realized it. Is there any shared information? Is there any conversation? Is there anything more than the grim, gritted teeth and the mounting tension and aggression of the space as the world is so very quiet?
I think the reason that Hess and Lucio aren't really exactly talking about what's coming is because they've already experienced it. They've already fought a lupine once, so they're they're well aware of what's coming. But I guess in the case of Miriam, Hess would look at Miriam. Have you ever seen one of these guys in action before?
I'm guessing it's not like Teen Wolf.
Oh no,
More like
nothing at all
Underworld.
like that. Yeah, more like Underworld. Way more. The one that we killed, I found out later, was fairly sick and deranged, but and old. That too, but it took out like 80 or more people without too much problem. Until like we ganged up on it and fucking killed it. So if there's multiple of them, it's gonna be a hard fight. It's gonna be a fairly hard fight. Guns work though, right? Like, I mean, even if it's not silver weapons, like sheer firepower should handle it.
Great.
Just use the silver shots. Listen, for what it's worth, we might not all make it out of this. So, I just want to let you know. If we don't see either of you next night, it's been an honor. Now let's give them hell.
And even though it's just at the other end of the hall, there is an excessive amount of distance between where Lucio, Hestia, and Miriam are to where Sophia is, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually, awash in the blood of her neighbors, completely soaked in their life's fluids. And for the first time in a very long time, her beast and her are in 100% accord. There's no need to debase themselves and lap at the blood that's coating their skin and the floor all around them. In the time that Lucio, Hestia, and Miriam gathered tools of destruction, firearm and fire-powered daggers and blades, solid slugs, and all manner of silver weaponry that they could get their hands on, and alight it back to the safe room, the clean room. Sophia has slaughtered yet another neighbor. She has drawn sigils and signs into the floor, all but carving them in blood. And a sound unheard in this world echoes up and out of her throat, rising to the rafters above her head, vibrating through the stone. And the energies pouring out of her are foul things, bits and pieces of the unnatural world being brought forth into this one. The energies soaking and coating the corpses about her. The energies wafting off the walls, corrupting what they touch, aging the paint and the stone beneath it, causing the blood that had been all but carved into the floor with Sophia's dedicated attention and focus to seem as if they have been there for years, for decades. And just when the moment gets beyond salvageable, when the annoying words, phrases, and guttural sounds echoing from her undead lungs reaches the point of insanity, Silvio opens his eyes. Her neighbors' corpses rise bonelessly. There is worse than no recollection in them. There is worse than a animalistic predatoriness about them. It is the emptiness. It is the void staring out of them. The offensive, aggressive void. The void that seeks to pull all of the natural world into itself to consume it whole. Doesn't want to prey on anything or anyone. It wants to end all things. Even that she has not raised or directly taken part in raising before, she knows that orders are important. For as long as they have something to do, they will do so. If nothing is presented, they will mindlessly attack anything, everything, until there is nothing left to attack.
They will be specifically instructed that anything that threatens me is to be ripped into as small pieces as they can manage.
And as the words tumble past Sophia's lips and safeties are removed, there is a crash, a blast, and the wet bridge landing. There is the scent of all outdoors, as many a mother has told their children who run back and forth, wafting through space. There is a snuffling and a scenting of the wind and the space, echoing from the downstairs space. The open floor plan playing well with the large form, as well as the two smaller ones, which fall in through the skylight almost silently and begin fanning out. It is clear that there's some tactical understanding behind these three. The large, brutish form of their leader, beginning to take the steps slowly, and starts and stops. A quick launch forward, darting senses out, sniffing the air, looking left and right, planning for a attack at any moment. The other two checking the rooms one after the other, before making their way up the stairs behind their leader. As the huge, muscular head pops over the ridge of the top step, and the scent of death smacks him in the nose. There is a growl of annoyance. Something said deep in something's chest, and you all know that the enemy has arrived. And we are at just 52 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10-minute and be back here at 2 after. All right, guys. How we doing? Everything back?
Yep. And I have my
Ready to die.
Oh, you know I'm. It does, doesn't it? You know you can't say stuff like that. Yeah. I am of that generation where when you say things like that are the title of the song gets stuck in my head.
Hey, I've died in this game before.
Yes. Hopefully if you do so again, it will be as awesome. It will be as impactful. It will provide us with enough story fodder to last eons.
I mean, they're pretty fucked if Sophia dies, so it will.
Lucio made it back yet?
I forgot there's 2 buttons that mute, so I had both muted.
Aha. At least I'm not the only one. I keep forgetting that my mic has independent mute and Discord has mute. So it is oftentimes me fumbling with both buttons that you hear in the background. So when we stepped away, there was a overly muscled brunette head that popped over the top step onto the second story of this penthouse, the second story of Sophia's Haven. Now there's a unspoken rule. Bad guys do not invade your home. Bad guys do not come to your haven. And by bad guys, it is anyone who is anti whatever it is that you are feeling, living, breathing, doing in that moment. And in this moment, very much, these 3 are bad guys. There are 2 women and a man. The large, overly muscled brunette head popping over the top step is, in fact, one of the young ladies of this particular triptych. She looks as if she chews bricks, as most people would chew bubblegum. She has enough defined muscles and a defined musculature that without beating that horse overly much, she looks as if she could bench press a Buick. The other 2, while muscled, slightly developed, clearly athletic, clearly physically fit, are not as massive, as deadly looking, but not as massive. This one, the leader, her breathing sounds as if it could punch a hole in a wall. This one, the brunette, the leader of these 3, has a baleful glint of hate in her eyes as she the top step, poised or prized forward on the knuckles of her right arm as she leans and just peeks her eyes over the top of the step, much like a crocodile or a hippo, skimming just along the surface of the water, just the tip of the iceberg poking through. She looks one way down the hall, then the next, still scenting and sniffing the air. With her left, she flashes some hand sign to the other 2. You see the male nod his dark-haired head, and the woman, who has the lightest hair color of the 3, slinks backwards down the steps, just out of view. The male crawls forward, nearly to matching their leader. He nods, she nods, and they sprint, leaping forward up to the tops of the step, the brunette heading left towards Sophia, the male heading right toward the safe room. It is clear they have a plan that they've clearly either worked out or discussed beforehand, and they are attempting to execute something. Outside of violence and aggression, nothing else is immediately clear. What is it that everyone is doing?
Lucio's heightened senses are up to try and gauge where exactly in the house they are and possibly hear what they're saying, if that's possible. Beyond that, he has handed the shotguns to his fellow soldiers and has already loaded them before this they entered the building for them, assuming that they probably didn't know how to do it themselves.
That would be a good guess.
So he's stacked and racked and loaded and cocked. He's ready to go. The safety's off. What is, besides trying to radar where the interlopers are in the apartment, in the condo, in the penthouse. Is there anything he is physically actively doing besides listening and attuning himself to the quietude outside of the room?
Right now, he would be crouched down behind whatever barricade they've created for themselves, ready to pop out the moment one of them steps through the doorway, the point of entry. As for anything else he might be doing, he's debating whether to summon the arms of Ahriman yet, because he knows that if he does, he's going to be stuck in place for a while, and that might not be a good thing.
Yes. That
You
being...
just do the shadow thing and eat both Hess and me and run away.
That being the case, Lucia, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits, awareness, and in this case, you will get the bonus for Auspex, -1. Hestia, is there anything that Hestia is doing?
Okay, and now I remember because we were all on the phone, the line was open when it got said. Where did Silvio say the back door to get out was?
Okay, so you begin looking for the hidden egress, the escape hatch, as it were.
Hell yeah! we escape hatching. And while things, well, no, I was going to say while things were getting loaded, she would have probably gone to try to start Ball's Caress to poison her blood, because it's poison against everything. It works on everything, including lupines. But I'll come back to that if I need to.
All right, so that being the case, would you be so kind as to try to dredge that memory that you heard secondhand through the phone up in this moment and find exactly where it is? Would you be so kind as to roll intelligence and awareness, or intelligence and larceny to find the hidden through either memory or intuition?
A puzzle.
It actually does.
Yeah, then I'm gonna go awareness because I have a specialty with puzzles.
All right, sounds like a plan. And while that roll is happening, Miriam, knowing what they just described to you, something that could end 80 kindreds or thereabout, while wounded and dying of disease, is there anything that Miriam is doing?
Well, presumably, they're going to at least be able to see in the dark should they cut the power. So I'm going to activate Eyes of the Beast and, hide behind something heavy.
All right, sounds like a plan. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity plus stealth, which will add to any attempt to find you in the upcoming few moments. While that is happening, Sophia, hearing hell coming, what is it that you are doing or ordering or having your appendages do?
I am going to get behind the appendages so that they can be killed first. Or to kill first, but I'm not real optimistic about that out of character. And as I'm doing so, I will go ahead and preemptively activate my Defy Bane.
Yay!
All
When I
right.
finally get hungrier. Damn it.
That is
Silvio's soul didn't provide much nourishment, it seems. He did not last long.
I mean, he was pretty filling. I did 4 or 5 rouse checks before I failed there.
Would you go ahead and roll your wits plus survival? Just to set a standard. And it will, you already rolled your rouse, so just your wits plus survival to set a standard. And we are going to approximate anything less than that of not applying in advance. If it gets to that point. Right. All right. That being the case, let's see how well they do. To obliterate the door in one fell swoop, they need 4 successes. Well, he needs 4 successes. To make it through the zombies, he needs 5 successes to do so unscathed. Anything less means that there's a point that she's taking in the exchange while this is happening. Anything more than 5 by 3 means that damage will be heading towards you, Sophia, just so that you are aware. And as far as the rolls that I'm seeing here, Lucio, you are immediately aware that there are only 3 of them present. You are aware that there's one heading toward the safe room. Their intentions are very, very clear. They're going to decimate everything inside. The scent of blood and death have offended their sensibilities to the point where their ancestors are screaming in their ear. It has offended their sense of right and wrong, and this is definitely all semblances of wrong. The touch of the spirits in this place is strong enough that their hairs are standing on end, and the fresh death, the fresh blood that is on the air is enough to have them not quite completely mindless, but very much totaling and teeing up to that line. They are hyper offended. They are hyper aware that here there are monsters. The third presence that you can feel and notice and hear moving around, if you did know better, you'd say that they are barricading the elevator and the stairwell to keep anything from coming in or anything escaping out easily. The intentions behind that can be good for no one and nothing. Hestia, looking at the roll, it is relatively easy to find the hidden door. And this is what most people wouldn't have remembered is Sophia's birthday. Well, most people wouldn't be able to intuit is Sophia's birthday. And unfortunately for Hestia, her sharp intellect, she is able to successfully guess the month. She merely needs the day. And while that's happening, so Miriam, in the effort to hide behind the largest, most occluding object in the room, you end up knocking over a small sarcophagus about the size of a 4-year-old or 3-year-old. You hope that there's nothing inside, but unfortunately for you, when you knock it over, it cracks open. Inside is the actual corpse of something or someone of an extraordinarily short stature. You're hoping that it is not a child. The skull that falls free of the bones inside, small enough that you can hold it in the palm of one hand. It would not be as bothersome, save when you knock the sarcophagus over and the skeleton falls free, unwrapped, unembalmed, just the skeleton, picked clean of all of the bones and sinew and soft tissue. The medical student in you immediately picks up the signs of something sharp, like claws or teeth, having chewed away those facets instead of it being worn away through time. And even that intellectual curiosity and small bits of knowledge that filtered to you of all those little small signs you see across the bone, what looks like teeth marks, small teeth marks chewing away all of the fat and gristle. It's the fact that the head, that the skeleton that rolls free of that skeletal mess seems to look at you as the sound of something large and heavy kicking the door free of its hinges. Now here's the thing. You all retreated to the safe room because the door was thick. The door was supposed to hold. The door was supposed to keep anything and everything that might try to make its way in, to slow them down long enough for you to ready yourself for the eventual coming of whatever that was. It took one swift kick. One determined, empowered kick. And the door swings open as this 6'2", roughly 260 pounds of solid muscle individual dressed in a short-sleeved flak jacket, full with a neck brace, cargo-esque shorts on, and tattoos running up his left leg, clearly beneath the shorts and all the way up his left side, bear the door off his hinges and leaps inside. His fangs, and yes, fangs, evident in the snarl on his face as his fingers twist, constrict, as if they are claws instead of fingernails on the end of his fingers. There's hell a-coming, and he has intentions.
And Lucio immediately begins to open fire.
DC 2 to hit in this chaos, this sheer mindless aggression. Anything above DC 2 will reflect in damage to this person. You need 4 successes to knock him off his feet. Fire away.
What am I rolling?
Dexterity and firearms.
I'm going to risk a blood surge in this, if I'm allowed to.
Of course.
I get hungrier.
Oh. You see, Lucio, the thing about you is you're a good guy, but you're a bad guy like all your other friends. But you think that death is the end. You think that you can get angry enough and just kill somebody, and that's the worst thing you can do. You don't understand. There's worse things than death. And you should visit each and every last one of them onto this person. He is here with intentions of harm. His blood should be yours by right. And in all of that quietude, in all of that prodding, prattling of your beast, the room explodes in sound. Lucio, unfortunately, still has heightened senses up. He is ground zero for an explosion. The bullet travels at roughly 764 miles per second, just beneath the, actually slightly above the speed of sound, as it tears through space and seeming time, and sending the attacker back out of the room and onto his back. The yowl of pain only adding to that growing migraine level jolt of awareness rocketing through Lucio as he realizes firearms and heightened senses really don't mix. While at the other end of the hall, the snarling blur of aggression would have Sophia standing and cheering it on if it was not directed in her general vicinity. The sheer ferocity of both parties is a thing to behold. All of that dead muscle, pouring itself mindlessly forward, and all of that hot, heavy, heated aggression crashing against it like a wave is art. Thankfully, you are not Toreador and you're not getting stuck in a moment and you're not able to truly give yourself over to it. But even not being a stereotypical Toreador, cursed with the ability to see art in everywhere and everything, it is a beautiful ballet of violence. Limbs flying, pieces hanging, the sheer howls of pain echoing from that woman deserves an applause. Sadly, she emerges from the scrape, the scramble, victorious. Bits and pieces of Silvio and your neighbors clinging to her. Silvio's corpse still attempting to hold on and drag her with it into the next life as she takes a step forward, the impending doom clear.
All right. Well, I got my fortitude up, so the first hit won't hurt nearly as bad. I am going to throw up Aura of Decay, because if she's going to take me out, I'm going to fuck her up a little too.
I like it.
And also, I will lick my finger, because if she's going to fuck me up, she's going to die tomorrow.
So, as we enter into this next round, this next conflagration of chaotic pain and combat, what is everyone's attention? The puzzle of the birthday is pressing. The sound of a shotgun being fired in an enclosed space is not one that can be forgotten. Even without heightened senses, it is enough to cause eardrums to burst, lungs to be filled with the backfire gas. It is hell on the senses. But there's still the question of the birthday. And the fact that it is rolling out of direct line of fire of the door. Not fleeing. You don't hear the pitter-patter of feet running away. You hear scrambling to its feet and ragged breath that speaks of determination. There is some foolish, overly brave, stupid idea being worked out. What is it that you three are doing?
Lucio's definitely turning off heightened senses, but he does not think it's a good idea to leave the room yet because he does not know where the other two lupines are. Quick question, is there only one point of entry to the safe room?
Based on how Hestia is scrambling and looking through things and moving things and says, aha, when she finds a keypad, no. However, the fact that you hear and the growing cursing of frustration echoing from Hestia, that might as well only be one way in and out.
Second question, in Tenebrous Avatar, does Lucio still have the ability to hold a gun?
No. It literally becomes a thing of never-ending night.
Okay. Lupines can potentially heal, so rescinding what Lucio had said previously, he's going to run out and put another bullet into that lupine. He wants to finish it off. The sooner the better.
Okay.
The intention as he's rushing out is to keep his back to one of the walls, so that way he has full view of everything in front of him. And that way he's not going to get ambushed the moment he steps out the door.
Okay. Excellent. We have an idea what Lucio is planning and attempting. Being aware of Lucio gathering his feet, his bandaged and wounded form, surging forward, what are Hestia and Miriam doing? The small form from inside the sarcophagus is staring into Miriam, or more specifically, staring into Miriam's soul.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not creepy at all. She's going to scoop up the skull and it's like, all right, little buddy, you're creepy as hell, but if that thing comes in here, you're going to get a mouthful of fur and just be ready to throw the skull at the thing.
And Hestia?
Hess yells back over her shoulder, does anybody know Sophia's birthday? But physically, she is getting her blood ready for Ball's caress.
All right. That being the case, Lucio, I need you to roll your dexterity and firearms -2. And while that is happening at the other end of the hall, as you go surging out of the door, glancing for where the center mass of this individual is, he is gathering himself, holding his chest and preparing to leap around the door. It is clear that he has the most foolishly brave and idiotic plan in mind to rush them. After all, who would suspect a second rush, a second ambush, a second onslaught for someone who lost the first exchange? The blood flowing from him as if he is a hose on a nice summer day when someone left the water spigot on, just lazily flowing out in an unending rivulet, leaves the air filled with that heady, delicious, maddening scent of lupine blood. And Lucio is taken back to that moment of cracking that lovely bottle open, and he, Critias, partaking of all of that delicious, well-preserved blood. It was exciting. It was thrilling. In that moment, Lucio felt as if he could literally fly. And that
Lucio's mad enough right now to try another blood surge if he's allowed.
All right. Sounds like a plan. And as he tempts the beast and reaches down into all of that lovely deep darkness, before rolling anything else, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll 1/3 of your humanity, your unspent willpower, DC 2. You stave off the beast. You keep from descending into your most bestial form, but just barely. You come up with a sterling first class grade A plus. Yet the beast is there with you, even unbidden and still leashed, urging you forward. You don't have to be within 3 feet. Pull that trigger. But as you rush out of the door and see him surging forward, part of you fights with yourself to continue moving away. Instead, you hold your ground and extend the barrel so that you point and land directly center mass. The beauty about solid slugs, instead of buckshot or birdshot, is that it hits like any other slug where it's aimed. It takes just that central location in that mass. The exit wound, well, there's more of him on the floor behind him than what changes steps and tries to sink with you into the nothingness of death.
So is he immediately dead, or is he still dying?
He is very much dying. The fires are going out. The animosity and hate that exists there in those eyes is not something that you'll easily forget. You've watched people die. You've been the harbinger of death for a vast variety of individuals. But you've
Lucio
never...
rushes forward and bites into his neck.
All semblances of civility gone. All semblances of control dissipated. The joining of you and your beast in that moment is, well, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's the start of a lovely, lovely friendship. Getting to know each other on a most close and intimate basis. And as you sink Fanes looking past your victim, you watch as Lou Ferrigno's younger sister, who's in better shape and has more science behind building her muscle, launches forward to end Sophia.
Yay.
Oh, so Lucio sees her about to die.
Yes, you see Silvio's dead form hanging on to this monster, this Hulk. You see the crumpled, broken, slashed, and plundered remains of the neighbors. Fingers twitching, heads moving, trying to bite at the non-present form that is moving forward to slash through Sophia. There's enough muscles in that back that you could hold a centerfold on each muscle group for the next 50 years and never run out of centerfolds. There's enough muscles in that back that, well, you've seen weaker elephants. There is just a mountain of promised pain in that back, in those rippling, undulating, bleeding muscles.
Okay, 2 clarifying questions. Number 1, is this the end of Lucio's action, or does he still have a moment to act?
He has a moment to yell. He has a moment to scream. He has a moment to vocalize. Or he cannot bite down.
That was my second question. Has he already bitten?
No, he's biting. He's preparing. He's moving forward to do exactly as he intended to join with, well, the dying of the light, to absorb the death of a lupine, to be with them in that moment.
Oh my god, he's at Hunger 5. What would he do? Oh, that's such encouraging words.
I mean, it's true.
Alright, he's just gonna shout out, "I need help in here," before pointing the gun to the lupine. So yeah, he's foregoing this meal.
All right, so you're aiming down the hall, yelling.
Oh wait, hold on. They're not very close to me, or are they like...
They're in the safe room to your right now.
I mean, we definitely still hear you. It's just whether you're aiming at the lupine you're fighting or you're aiming at the lupine that's menacing Sophia. I guess that's what we need to sort.
Oh, well, the lupine that I'm fighting is dying, right?
Yep.
Okay. New plan. He shouts, "I need help in here," and then bites down. Because he is extremely hungry. Extremely hungry. I was under the impression that they were like only the other lupine was like a few feet away at this point.
Oh no, she's down the hall. You can, it's a straight shot. You can see her leaning back to throw her all into the next shot that
Okay.
executes.
So then, yeah, that'll be Lucio's plan. He shouts, "I need help in here," and then he'll bite down. Because the blood right next to him, it's too much.
Hearing that, Hess is going to abandon the puzzle of the way out for now, because if they can save Sophia, they can still use it to get out. Grabbing for the biggest silver item that they brought into the armory and getting her Sonic the Hedgehog on, heading for Sophia.
Okay. Miriam.
She is going to I guess follow and poke her head out the door as well. And maybe chuck a skull down the hall at the other lupine.
All right. So, Hesha blurs using blink. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity plus melee? And Miriam, unfortunately, it's the same roll to try to chuck the skull down the hall towards the huge mountain of a woman who is preparing to end Sophia. And while that is happening, Sophia, is there anything outside of the activation of disciplines that Sophia is attempting?
Well, she is not at all a fighter. She always had a big muscle-bound guy to do that for her. So,
Well, she still does. He's literally struggling around the waist of this Hulk. There is a determination that not even death has managed to water down at play here.
well, then she will hope for the best. She's got her aura of decay up. She's got her spit on her finger to, maybe kill him tomorrow. And then that's it. Kind of just bracing for impact at this point. She's not exactly nimble enough to dodge. She'd have a pool of 1 die, so...
Oh, well, this is fun.
What does fate?
I just want the skull to bite it, so, I mean...
There are moments in time where fate lends a hand. There are moments in time where luck itself says, no, this shall not pass. There are moments in time when everything aligns in the absolute most perfect version of itself. This is not one of those moments. Hesha, you've seen smaller rhinos charging across some nature documentary. You've seen smaller buses try to park themselves. As you close the distance on this huge woman who has every intentions of ending all that Sophia might ever hope to become or ever will be, the meat tenderizer in your hand flies as if it has a mind of its own, landing against the woman's hip. As the skull that you were sure you just saw in Miriam's hand in the safe room lands at your feet. It rolls and looks up at you, looks you dead in the eyes as the She-Hulk, the woman that is all muscle and bad intentions, takes the hit that you dished out, the skin burning even through the clothing as you make contact. And she falters. She falters in a way that nothing but recognition could cause someone to do so. There's a knowing look there behind the eyes. And the shot that was designed by intent to take Sophia's head off of its shoulders doesn't fly. There's a frown across this woman's face. There's a look of disbelief. And she does the one thing you would never do to anything you feel is an actual threat. She turns her back on Sophia, turning squarely to look you up and down, and then looks back down the hall, watching as Lucio sets fang into her cousin. Miriam standing there empty-handed as the skull at Hestia and her feet looks up, trying to make eye contact. Luckily, there's no skin. Otherwise, there'd be a raised brow and several other affectation at play. Instead, there is an empty, socketed skull attempting to make eye contact.
While she's distracted, can I spit on her?
Ew, you're nasty. Yes.
I will do so, which will activate the foul spirit, which won't do anything now, but possibly something tomorrow. Though it will poison her blood to other kindred, so if we feed on her, someone's fucked.
Luckily, no one knows that, so it'll be fine. It'll be fun. Lucio, we got a drink for you.
Oh, goody.
Here's the thing. In this moment of calm, because that's literally what this split second is. It is a moment of calm. The scent of cordite wafting off of her is normally enough to cause all manner of things living and dead to feel nothing but pain. But the pain that this woman is under is clearly not physical. It's almost as if she doesn't got time to bleed. But there's something else going on here, something that is only a pause. And now there are two kindred within close enough range. Now there is the added impetus of watching her cousin die at the fang of a kindred. There is the empty-handed, dark-haired Miriam standing in the doorway just over Lucio's shoulder as he drinks down the last few moments of this man's life. So, without further delay, without further ado, and the spittle, the blood-tinged spittle flying free of Sophia's mouth in the most ladylike manner possible, what is it that everyone is doing?
Drinking.
All right.
Where did the meat tenderizer land?
Hip.
No, after it bounced off their hip.
It didn't fly out of her hand. It acted as if it had a mind of its own and bounced off as if you were hitting metal. But it is still in Hestia's hand.
Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, that Balls caress she's been working on, she bites into her tongue and then licks the meat tenderizer with it.
All right, so that's Hestia's action. Lucia's action is drinking. Miriam, what is it that Miriam is doing?
Well, she doesn't feel confident enough to shoot at the thing with Hestia standing right there. So I guess she will go look for other things to throw. Just load up on ammunition. If nothing else, it'll be a distraction.
And Sophia, your spittle sliding down the side of this woman's neck, melding with the already scarred and riddled flesh. What is Sophia doing? They're in this pregnant pause of a moment.
She will try to put a little distance between them, but she will hiss out in that sacred language of the first city that if they were going to act, now would be the time, because they don't want her on their side of the veil.
All right. Let's see
That
what.
roll was for the strength of the potency. I think a Balls caress, I guess.
Yes. All right, so she's going to split her die. She's going to kick Hestia up and over the railing. She's going to take Sophia's jaw for spitting on her. And she's going to throw that jaw square center of Lucio's head. So that gives her... I mean, she can't throw that. She'd have to try to throw the jaw, which means she'd lose her die. The skull, I mean, she loses the die. All right. So, in the course of events, she becomes a temporary blur, attempting to dervish her way through this moment. She attempts to place her foot square center of Hestia's chest and send her back up and over the railing. As she whirls and reaches for Sophia's jaw. Sophia is no longer in that exact location, having tried to establish some space with this foul, ear-splitting sound coming from her. And as she whirls, missing the jaw, she scoops up the skull at her feet and flings it down the hall, where it clatters, harmlessly rolling to a stop, abutting Lucio's victim's heels and scrambling for someone to make eye contact with.
So did the kick actually work?
Yes. As Hestia is licking the mallet, her vitae oozing forward. Space. Reach. She doesn't go falling up and over the railing into the first floor. She meets the railing, and it hits as hard as you think it might. There's no way that something or someone living should be able to push, hit, punch, kick, or otherwise harm with that amount of force. But she is a walking muscle. She is a walking force of death and destruction. That is a outcome of 1 plus 3, giving you 4 superficial. As the railing struggles and strains and cries out in pain as Hestia falls back into it. Realizing what you all are facing, and knowing that there is another member of the triptych floating around the first floor, barring easy means of escape, what is it that everyone is doing?
At this point, how much hunger has Lucio recovered from his meal?
He's at 3. Mainly because he's not trying to make sure that his victim survives. He's not trying to do anything except for drink all of that lovely, adrenaline-laced, dying blood coats him, every inch of him inside.
As much as he would love to continue drinking, he's going to pull himself away now that he has at least enough blood to not be running on fumes. And he's gonna point the gun at the big wolf and shoot.
Miriam, Hestia, Sophia.
I suppose Hessa's probably righting herself after getting smacked into the banister. As she's kind of tipped back into the banister, does she see where the other wolf is?
From her vantage point, she would not be able to see the elevator or the stairs. She can hear what sounds like children playing Twister. She can't see anything.
Well then, since she can't see, she's gonna getting herself righted. She's gonna yell to Sophia, "I almost got the thing open! Safe room!"
So I think Miriam would probably play soccer and kick the skull back at the werewolf. That seems like an appropriate thing to do.
Quick question. Did I give you a shotgun?
You did, but Hestia
Yes.
was right by the person, and I would rather throw a skull than shoot Hestia.
Gotcha.
Hess isn't there no more. She got kicked across the room.
It's fine. Maybe when it's closer and she feels like she has a guaranteed shot. She's not good with guns. She doesn't fight really. But anyway, yes, kicking the skull back to the werewolf.
Would you be so kind as to roll strength plus melee? Lucia, would you be so kind as to roll dexterity plus fire? Hestia,
He's blood surging again.
just calling out. No rolls needed for that. But Sophia, as all of this is happening, and realizing that there is a building pressure of spiritual manifestations in this space, unbeknownst to you, invisible to you in this moment, what is Sophia doing?
So the lupine that was attacking me has run out of the room and kicks Hestia over a railing. Is that correct?
Kicked Hestia into the railing. Hestia would have went over with a higher success, but as it stands, the railing and Hestia temporarily became one entity. Or at least that's what it felt like for Hestia.
She's durable. She'll be all right. Sophia is going to stride forward like she's hot shit and hiss something about, "You will not remove me from my home." Be all intimidating and scary like she's more powerful than she actually is. Because she's got all those ace combat skills.
Okay. Closing back in within the melee range, as all manner of chaos is happening. You are effectively at her back. That's just to her right. The skull is being passed along the floor towards her. And Lucio's attempting to fill the space with hot silver. Close the distance, take the shotgun, because that's the most dangerous weapon. So, by taking the shotgun, she's going to rip off Lucio's arms. He gets a +1 for that one success. Sophia striding behind. You can add to that success by attempting to distract, which would be so kind of go ahead and roll your manipulation plus intimidation. And Hestia, you're calling for the other lupine, asking Sophia for the code to the escape hatch.
No, I didn't ask for it. I just said, almost got the thing open, head to the safe room. Four, 1. Let's see here. Does she disarm Lucio?
Oh, so she's right in front of me.
She's closing the distance to take your arms, yes.
Oh, no.
That's a success on an exchange of 0. The Lucio successful. She takes the 3 silver, which is aggravated. He would normally take 3 from the snatching and ripping damage, but because of the successes of Miriam and Sophia to distract, that reduces her damage that she does to 0. Sophia willing to put herself in nice, close, intimate distance, and Miriam passing the skull, which attempts to make eye contact to bore into her soul. There's no way that a spinning head should be attempting to struggle against the centrifugal force of being kicked like a soccer ball, yet it is doing just that, attempting to make and maintain a long, loving, piercing gaze. It bats shotgun up and would have clearly taken Lucio's arm or hand with it. But instead of it being a slashing, ripping, tearing thing, the force of the blow sends Lucio spiraling up as the shotgun moving loosely in his grip, not flying free, but just being knocked off center. Sophia's echoing Enochian voice bombarding his ears, and that stupid skull trying to make eye contact. Are you serious? What the hell? Who does that? Is what she's thinking. What does that? Is what she's questioning mentally. And where the fuck is Sarah? Is what she's cursing. There are moments in time where everything just spirals out of control, and this is one of those moments. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is a grand, respected member of her peoples, and she is being thwarted. She is being trounced by fate. It's as if these dead things, as if these cadavers have the blessings of saints. She's unsure how, why, and why did that woman's face shimmer and shift? How does she see Karen in that small little girl-sized woman's face? But she did. And where the fuck is Sarah? Well, while all of this chaos is happening on the second story of Sophia's penthouse, while this war zone, this battlefield, is whiffling and waffling its way to a close, on the first floor, in the stairwell, the dirty blonde-haired Lupin that came in with these two, who has set about ensuring that all paths of escape were successfully barred, is being strung up. Her hands are outstretched. Her head is snapped back, nearly touching her own spine, as the various members and guests of the party fill her one after the other, pouring themselves into all of that unbridled strength, getting a few microseconds of living and breathing and being strong and dangerous, one after the next, over and over. The forces and spirits aligned against them are legion, and they are centered on Sarah, the easiest to manipulate, the easiest to slip past their defenses, the easiest to use. And it is clear that the outcome of this moment is death. The final arbiter in all of this is that things will die. One already has. Another is well on its way. And then Sarah, dying in every way that one can, while still remaining alive, is happening on the first floor. We often say, well, I often say that inaction is an action. And in that pause, in those moments between moments, all of the well-laid plans, the chaotic moments spin out of control, and the spirits responding to all of the bloodlust, to all of the spilled blood, the lives leaking across the boundary between this world and the next, are just as aggressively inebriated as Lucio, are just as frenzied with anger as this wall of muscle. They are just as hatefully vengeful as the lupine that Lucio drank down. But that's a problem for your future selves, as you all realize that this battle, this war is not over. Yet fate conspires to assist you, knowing that there is but one way and one recourse out of here. You hear the muscles begin to tear. The damage accumulated, causing the entire left side of this lupine to present itself as the fur explodes from its skin, its teeth lengthening, its arms shifting in sockets that were not formerly there, into a dark reddish brown, small pony-sized wolf. The entire left side singed and burned and battered and bruised. Bits of the muscle underneath slick with blood showing through all of that matted fur. And a howl echoing out of its chest. With the sound of that wolf howl sitting in the air between us all, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely session. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night all.
Good night.